Hi guys, Sarah here from Highland Haven Australian Shepherds and Highland Haven Dog Training, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of Dog for Thought. Joining me is my co-host, daughter, and dog trainer extraordinaire, Sophie.
Hi, everyone.
So what's going on, Sophie? Give us an update in Dogland.
The puppies are doing great.
So when we're filming this, how old are they?
They are a little over a week, like a week and a
So
half.
they're like 9 days today.
Yeah. And they're growing nicely. Evie's a wonderful mother. I mean, she is very attached to them, but also doesn't need to be like dragged away from them, which is nice. You know, you'll see all the puppies in the box without her, and she'll be laying on the bed. And then when they start crying, she comes back and cleans them and feeds them, and then, you know, does her own thing, which is really nice. Gianna, I feel like Gianna's liking spending so much time with us. Well, at least I'm enjoying spending time with
Maybe
Gianna.
she's enjoying spending time with the puppies. We can't, I would hope that she's enjoying spending the time here, but I think she's certainly enjoying spending time with the puppies, but also she misses her dog.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I feel bad about that, but, you know, it's only, 4 weeks.
Yeah, she'll survive.
Yeah.
The puppies are doing great. Right now, most of them are 2 pounds. The other ones are hovering right around 2 pounds, which is funny because Journey's last litter, where she only had 3 puppies, unfortunately, one of them was born sleeping, so she ended up with 2 live puppies. They were 2 pounds, when they were like 4 days old.
Yeah, it was
They were
crazy.
enormous.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives us a perspective of how big they are. It's hard to tell on camera when you're looking back at the videos, but they were enormous and oddly behind in many ways. So as that litter of 2 progressed, remember, they wouldn't walk.
Yep,
they wouldn't eat.
It took a while for their eyes to open. It was like they were a bit delayed, even though you would think they would have like a kickstart from having so much nourishment.
And being so big,
Yeah,
right.
but no, it did the opposite. So it really shows you how important it is to have a healthy sized litter, and not just have 1 or 2. Plus, we were talking about the complications of that stillborn that we did have with Journey. You know, like luckily she was able to birth that puppy out, but there could have been many complications. Plus, there was a puppy behind that puppy, right?
Oh, yeah. I think that was the second one born.
Yeah.
And he he was born absolutely perfect, but 0 blood. Like, it had no color. It was just gray. But he wasn't decomposed at all. So that leads me to believe that he was just really large, and passing through the birth canal tore open the sac, and he suffocated because he looked, very much alive when he was born.
And you worked on him for like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
He just would not, you know.
He was big. Unfortunately, he didn't get stuck and then cause all kinds of really serious complications, which can, endanger the life of the mom and the rest of the litter. So, knock on wood. I was just saying I'd love to use that stud again because he's such a sweet guy, but if he's only going to produce 2-3 puppies, I'm not sure I want to take that risk. But part of the reason I think the litter was small, or maybe the whole reason the litter was small, is that he failed to tie when he bred her.
Yeah, and didn't Melissa say that he bred with another female and she also had a small litter because he couldn't tie with her? So that's probably what it is. He's just an inexperienced male. I kind of hope we can use him again because those puppies are gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, if we use him again, then I'm going to use the technique that Karen showed me with this Evie's breeding, because that stud was also a noob and didn't tie initially. And then Karen just showed me how to sort of hold them together. You sort of bear hug them together so that he can't hop off. And then the gland swells and then he can't come off, and that's when most of the really potent sperm is deposited. So if I use him again, I'll do that. Not, Melissa couldn't do that with Journey. She would never allow that.
No, but you could do that with
But I
Journey,
could
and
do it
now
with
you know
Journey.
how to do it because you did it the last time. So
I was thinking about, maybe we should just talk briefly about the things that we've changed over the years with our breeding, just from experience and good ideas. I mean, that's one example of something I learned this litter, this breeding, right, is how to hold them together if he is known to have a slip tie, which is what it's technically called, how to sort of hold them together and why that's important. Like Karen sort of enlightened me, like, well, that because the bulbous gland does not swell right away. It takes 20, 30 seconds to swell to the point where they can't, they get locked together. So if he gets off too soon, then the gland swells when he's outside of her, and then it's all wasted. So I was like, oh, duh, right?
Yeah, that makes
That
sense.
didn't really occur to me, but that makes perfect sense. So that's the kind of thing that you learn from experienced breeders. You will generally not learn that from a vet, because most vets, unless they're breeders themselves, really have no experience. It's really the midwifery part of dog breeding is super important. That's where you're going to get your most knowledge, not from, a medical professional, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, well, I do think that's with like handful of things. Like if you ask groomers and stuff, they have very different techniques than you would ask like vets, especially with like nail trims and stuff. Groomers know really how to do nail trims fast and consistent.
Sure, because they do them all day
because
long.
they do them all day long, and they deal with very difficult dogs for the most part. Where vets, they have medicine to sedate the dog, or they are sedated for a procedure, and then they do their nails or whatever. So with each profession, they have different knowledges, and I always love learning something new that like I don't know, perhaps, and I can like add to like my repertoire of skills.
Yeah, an information collector. You're an information collector, so am I. I love to know things. So that's one example, that breeding technique that Karen showed me, which I will definitely employ in the future. The other thing I was thinking that we've done very differently than this with this litter is I've removed the mat, the brown mat in the whelping box. Normally what we do is we have the compressed foam puzzle piece floor tiles underneath the whelping box. And then inside the whelping box, another layer of those puzzle pieces, those foam puzzle pieces, to give some cushion for the mama, but firm enough that puppies can't get crushed or lost in the softness of it. And then when their puppies are really new, we then put a layer of paper, and then, printless newspaper. And then on top of that, we put our whelping pad, which is that traditional brown pad. If you've watched our litters over the years, every freaking picture or video has got that brown pad in the background. That pad is great for lots of things because it does absorb the pee. It gives the puppies a surface that they can sort of move around on better than, you don't want them on a slippery surface. But the problem is that usually day 2, day 3, sometime between day 2 and day 5, the mom will start to get antsy and she'll start digging. Right. And usually that's a pain response, right? Her uterus is contracting back to its original size. So she will still have these painful cramps. The digging can be in response to that. The problem with digging is that it moves the pad around and the paper underneath. And then these very young puppies can get lost and suffocate, getting wrapped up. And that's always been our concern when we're out of the house. Like when I was working out of the house full time, watching the puppy cam, you get nervous that the puppies are going to get wrapped up in that thing. So this time, Gianna spent the first, I think, 3 nights here. When Evie was alone the first time, I was like, I'm just going to take the pad out, because now they're on that rubber foam mat and they can still push around, but there's nothing for Evie to scratch and potentially accidentally suffocate puppy.
I was also thinking, kind of to go back to the conversation before with, like day 2 or 3, the dogs would dig up the mat, and those were always the times that you would go back to work, as you would take like 2 days off to make sure the puppies were like all healthy and the mom was healthy, and then you would go back to work, and then you would call Jacob up when he was in school, and you would be like, Jacob has to go home because of blah blah blah.
When he was in high school, yeah. I'm like, oh, Jacob's has a family emergency, he has to leave.
Yep. And then he would go home and like fix the mat and come back to school, which is so funny because I totally forgot about that. A couple times I think you had Dad go home too. I think I was at school, so.
But. Yeah, that's always sort of hand wringing when you see that kind of thing going on the camera and you're not there. Mm-hmm. We're here all the time now, so it doesn't really matter. Although we did go, we do have to go out and walk our training dogs. So, we're out for a couple of hours when the puppies were 3 days old. So we just kept checking the camera. The camera is a game changer for sure. I don't know how we could have ever bred a litter with that. We had a camera from day one from our very first litter, which most breeders did not have. But I was like, oh no, I'm going to be working, so I want to make sure that they're okay. So that's the one thing I've changed. So now if you look on the Instagram, you'll see that the mat is blue. It's a royal blue, which actually looks better for pictures and videos. So I kind of like that. And I thought maybe it would get like real stinky. But Evie's been keeping it so clean. So I think that I'm going to probably do that pretty much going forward initially. Once she stops cleaning up the pee and the poop, though, they have to go on a non-absorbent surface because obviously it would be really gross after that. But that will happen at around 3 weeks when they transition to the toddler pen anyway.
Yeah.
So so those are the two new things that we've done with this litter. Can you think of anything else?
I can't think of like with us, but I remember when you went to Melissa's, you were talking about like tail docking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Oh, I take mine to the vet at like, I don't know, six weeks or something like that."
No, I think they were younger than that,
Younger
but
than
whatever.
that? I don't know. She would take them to the vet and actually get them like surgically like remove where they like clip them off.
Cut them off.
Which obviously there could be complications and it's painful.
So traumatic for the puppies.
Yeah, so we told her about banding and then we showed her, we used these little, they're like clamps and they're like, you take a rubber band and you're meant to like castrate goats' balls with them or whatever. And we use that and that's how we take our little, they're like, the bands are like the ones that you put on your braces when you have braces to connect the top and the bottom. That's how small they are. And then you just take 2 of those bands and you just tie it around the tail at like the first 24 hours that they're alive. And within 3 days, they fall off.
Gone, yeah.
And it's not painful. It's not invasive. You don't have to go to the vet for a procedure and risk these little puppies going into like a vet environment. So
there's no blood.
There's no blood.
So, yeah, there's a lot less risk.
And we taught her that, and she's like, "This is amazing. I don't know why I didn't think about this years ago." So even like OG breeders, like you can still kind of like bounce ideas off of each other, and you're learning new things as time goes on.
Yeah,
so.
we banded from day one as well.
Yeah, we
so
did.
This is all the research I did before we even bred. You know, a puppy cam and tail banding and stuff like that, and even choosing our breed because I did not want to have a breed that was. I know I've talked about this before that we're not good mothers, right? I said to Gianna, you see how often Evie feeds them. You know, it's like every hour, like she's in there feeding them. Can you imagine if we had to hand feed? I mean, and breeders do that with certain breeds. You know, the mother will reject them or they'll have a gigantic litter that you have to supplement. And it's really hard to hand feed puppies well where they don't aspirate and get pneumonia and die.
Yeah.
And get the right balance of nutrition in them at the right times and the right amounts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're really lucky that Evie is like super mom.
She is. She's really good. She's like her mother.
I'm starting to think, you know, a few litters ago, we sort of transitioned into starting our bitches earlier, younger, second heat cycle, which is usually around between 18 months and 2 years of age, which is a young dog to breed. But after doing some research and taking some classes on dog breeding, you know, they say that youth is your friend. When you're talking about dog breeding, the older the bitch, the more chances of complications. So we transitioned to that. That was one of the things we learned that were new. I'm starting to think that looking back, young females are better moms. I feel like it's the same with people. Like if you see a 22-year-old who has a baby, she's usually pretty chill, right? Mm-hmm. If you see a 38-year-old with her first baby, she's like monster, right? She's like so overprotective because, you know, the difference between 22 and 38, at 38, you've seen a lot more in life and you see shit that can go wrong. And so you're more anxious with the baby. This is, of course, all generalization.
Yeah, your theory.
My theories.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 22, you're kind of like, la, 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 life is good, you know, and you don't have enough life experience. You haven't experienced enough, you know, crazy stuff, and you don't worry so much about your baby. I'm wondering if the same thing for dogs. Like, since we transitioned to breeding younger dogs, they seem to be really natural, more relaxed moms. Think about it.
No, it's true because Meadow, we bred her at 2 and a half.
I wasn't breeding them until like they were 3 and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah, and Remy and Meadow were like, what the heck? What's going on? But I guess because it's so soon that, you know, and they were still growing and developing, it's like, oh, this is just what we do. Not really a second thought about it. Where like, if it's a 3-year-old, like I've gone through multiple seasons at this point and this has never happened before.
Yeah, like like maybe an 18-month-old dog or a 24-month-old dog. they're still sort of growing and maturing mentally.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, I guess this is
Like
part
this
of
another new thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
More
interesting.
elastic brain.
Yeah. So we will continue to do that for a myriad of reasons. But it's just remarkable what a good mom she is. What a calm, competent, and natural mother she is, which, if you knew Evie,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you'd be
you'd
like,
go, what?
yeah, I thought you'd be like Meadow, like all over the place. But she's very, Meadow she was actually a really good mother. It's just, she's anxious.
Yeah.
And maybe that's from your theory, right? We bred her at like 3. And she was just anxious and like, what's going on? Also, different bloodlines.
Yeah, she's certainly a more anxious dog.
Evie's not as anxious, but she does have a lot of like that same energy and playful energy like Meadow does. Like,
Yeah, she's immature.
yeah.
She's young, psychologically young.
Yeah, but
But she's still a young dog, so that makes sense. Anyway, she's doing a great job. I am thoroughly impressed with her. People keep asking me, how are the puppies? And I just say boring, but in the best way. Like, boring means they're growing on target. Mom is recovering uneventfully, and Evie hasn't even had diarrhea, which is a freaking miracle. We've never had a bitch that hasn't been like really virulent diarrhea for the first 10 days or so, which is so much more work for us. And Evie hasn't even had any kind of stomach upset, which is fantastic.
And she's been eating, which she's not a big eater. So
yeah, it's hard to,
really
when
good.
they don't feel well, it's hard to get them to eat. So the fact that she feels so well, she's been easier to sort of get calories down her throat, although she should be eating roughly twice what she's eating now.
yeah, she's still not a big
She's
eater,
bony.
but
They end up pretty bony by the time this is done, and that makes me somewhat uncomfortable. But they do recover quickly after that. That's the one thing Meadow and Remy did. They ate well. Once they got over the initial week of stomach upset, they ate enormous amounts of food.
And they were very protective of their food more than.
Well, Journey's really resource guardy with her food.
That's true.
Around.
I guess maybe they all are, but I don't know. I always thought Meadow and Remy were like extra, but also we had them in a different environment. Oh, something else we learned is the fencing them around the whelping box, because Remy started taking them out and hiding them around the room.
Well, I talked to a young breeder the other day who I know online, and she was saying, my bitch keeps taking one dog out. Do you have any ideas? And I was like, I don't know why she would pick on one dog, not pick, but choose to take that one puppy out of the box constantly, but just put a fence around the whelping box. So at least she takes her out. She can't take her anywhere.
Yeah.
And she went, oh, like, duh. Sometimes you don't think of those things.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm doing that right now. That was a game changer for us as well.
Yeah, we did that. And especially when we had the double litters, we had them both fenced in on different sides of the room since they were in the same room. So it's interesting. Like,
we have not fenced Evie, though.
No, because she's in that confined room and
But
she
still.
doesn't really move them.
Right.
So.
And she could at any point. Like,
Yeah.
she could be moving them right now, and we wouldn't know. And if that happens, then we will fence her off. But at this point, she has been really good about leaving them in the box.
Yeah, I just count them all the time on the camera. We count to 7 a lot, or whatever the number is, until they go home. Because it's like counting to 7, make sure they're all in the toddler room.
When you're talking about our own dogs, it's counting to 9.
Yeah, counting to 9.
Especially when it's really, really cold out. I'm constantly counting in my head when I go to bed to make sure that everyone's in. I haven't forgotten anybody outside.
No, because it's Remy. I always forget Remy outside, and now that she's getting older, she can't really hear anymore. I have to go out there and like wave my arms, like, "Hey, over here, inside!" And she's like, "Oh, my bad."
Alma, check your battery.
Yep.
Anyway, so maybe we should get started on our topic today. So our topic today is about dog breeding, appropriately. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to title it when I post this, but basically we're going to talk about the pet dog breeder, which is what we consider ourselves, as opposed to the dog fancier breeder, somebody who would breed dogs to show, right, conformation. The difference is, and why I think that really good pet dog breeders are so important for the average family, why you're doing sort of God's work. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, before I started breeding, part of the reason I waited so long to breed dogs is because I felt pretty conflicted about it, because, a dog breeder generally will love dogs, right? Unless you're a really horrible person, which most dog breeders are not. But, it starts with a love of dogs. So, when you breed dogs, you feel a little bit conflicted. Like, am I adding to the overpopulation of dogs? Because I don't want to contribute negatively to the dog world as a whole, right? So it took me a long time to sort of come around to that. And even the first few years that we bred, we've always done it as ethically as, we could possibly do it. But,
with the information we had at the time.
Yeah, well, I don't think we ever did anything unethically.
No, but like there are still times that like now like we look back and we're like, oh, like maybe we should have done this way. Not saying it was unethical, just saying like it's a different perspective of like the times and new research and things that are going on. So we really try to be updated with the new stuff that is coming out.
Right. I mean, like certainly the research on how often you should breed your bitch has been relatively new.
And genetics.
And the genetics is always moving forward. We were really lucky right from the beginning that we had access to genetic screening right from the beginning of our breeding program. That was also something that old timers didn't do, because they just didn't even know about it. But because I did so much research before ever breeding a dog, I was like, oh, well, then I'm going to do that, right?
Well, I think I could be wrong, but wasn't with Ruby, we tried to breed Ruby and then you figured out, then you were like, oh, genetic testing because of whatever, and then you genetically tested Ruby and she had like cancer in her bloodline. So no,
not cancer. She had a hereditary cataract.
Oh, okay.
But look at her now. She's 14 and she still sees quite well.
Yeah,
so she doesn't really have cataract.
Yeah, so it's
So, but that was again the beginning of the genetic testing. So our understanding of the genes and how you could combine them safely to produce healthy puppies, for me as a layperson, was not. I didn't know as much, for sure. So it took me a while to sort of come around and feel good about what we were doing. I don't breed to make money. I don't breed, I breed because I love the dogs and I love dog breeding. I really enjoy the whole process, that from the actual breeding all the way through the pregnancy and raising puppies and then selling them to loving homes is really very satisfying for me. But initially I was like, I don't show my dogs. So sometimes people will say, do they have a champion on, are they champion dogs? Champion would be a title that you would get from being in the conformation ring, the beauty pageant of dog worlds, right? Of the dog world. And if you get enough points, you get a champion, right? So you have to win enough shows to get that title. And I've never shown my dogs. And that's always been something that has made me a little bit anxious. Like, gee, maybe am I doing it right if I'm not like doing something like showing them? But showing, and this is not shade to conformation breeders either, but showing only focuses on one thing, right? How a dog looks. And in some ways that's really healthy for the dog because you want them to be structured in a certain way that means they're healthy, right? So you want them to have good movement. A good movement is a dog who is structured, has good conformation, is structured well, has good joints and bone. You can't move well if you don't have that. Certainly the way a dog looks, there are reasons for that. The reason that you get points off or get disqualified in the show ring if you have too much white on your face, if you're an Australian Shepherd, is because too much white has been associated with diseases, right?
And
deafness
double
and blindness. Right. So there's a reason that they should look that way. There's always sort of a reason behind it. A hound has long ears. There's a reason behind that. Of course, it can go overboard with dogs like, say, Frenchies.
Or pugs with how small their nose is now, which looks super cute, but now it's becoming to have complications and they have to get the
soft palate surgery.
Yeah, soft palate surgery. Same thing with bulldogs. So now if you look at like the show ring, you can kind of see like them trying to make their dogs have like more stretched out faces and more noses so they can breathe better. So you always see kind of like them evolving the different breeds and trying to do better each time.
Right. So it can really go sort of to one side too much. So a breed can then swing way to one side. and really emphasize one particular trait. And then, of course, that can be bad for the dog, like the brachycephalic dogs with the pushed in faces has really affected them. Um, Even the way, like American German Shepherds, the way they stack them, the way they set them up, they have that real sloped back. I just think that can't be healthy, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, there's problems in the show ring as well, but you look at a really good breeder, and of course their goal, right, is to preserve the qualities of the dog, the look and the qualities of the dog, for the next generation, right? You're supposed to be bettering the breed with each. So I'm like, well, are we bettering the breed? Because we're not showing in the conformation ring and getting championships on our dogs and stuff like that. But what I've come around to in the last few years is that, particularly because we train full time now in the myriad of dogs that we see, purebreds and mixed breeds, and how most of the problems that we see that people have with dogs are really breed specific, that are incompatible with their lives, right? So a corgi who nips the ankles or heels of their kids, right? That's a natural behavior for a more high drive corgi, which is incompatible.
But then the owners come in, oh, he's biting my kids, he's aggressive, he's this, he's that. And it's like, no, actually, these are very natural behaviors that have been dialed up because you have little kids that are running around amping that very natural behavior. So it doesn't really correlate with your life, which is part of the reason why we don't sell Aussies to kids under the age of 10, because under the age of 5, because it's very natural for them to herd children around, and children don't understand how to follow the rules until a certain age. So it's tricky. It's a tricky fine line of like what we find natural behaviors and how we can correlate them properly with like a normal, healthy home.
Right. So my goal has always been to breed medium drive Aussies, medium to low drive Aussies. I don't want to put a working Aussie into a family, and everyone we sell to they're going into families.
Yeah,
that's who we sell to. That's our clientele. We are not selling to farmers, ranchers. We're not selling to people who are going to compete in, agility or dock diving or whatever. We don't sell to people like that. It's not that I wouldn't. It's that that's not our clientele. That's not to say that some of our pet owners haven't also done agility with their dogs, but we're not talking high level, world-class agility competitions.
It's like once a week I go to agility class.
Yeah, which is wonderful, but not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not like an everyday, like I bought this dog so I can
compete with, to add to my brood to compete with, right? So in order to be ethical, in my opinion, is that you don't breed high drive dogs, because high drive dogs don't do well in the pet home. Even with trainers like ourselves, I would not want to live with a high drive dog. And we've got dogs within our pack that are higher drive for sure. Twiggy is certainly a high drive dog, and she's difficult to live with. We all know that. So we've always been very careful in breeding. If we have a high drive bitch, we're going to look for a low drive stud to mix her with, and vice versa.
And then it comes to the complications of getting them to breed with a lower drive male. So I think the reasons we've had such a hard time with breeding Twiggy, which we've both discussed is kind of a good thing that we've spayed her at this point. But we have to breed her with very low drive males, and she is so bitchy that it's really hard to get a tie, because the males are so low drive that they're like, I'm not willing to breed with this dog. She's crazy,
right.
So it's also kind of having a good medium balance of, Journey is a medium to low drive dog for sure. She definitely can be turned on, but she can easily be turned off. And it's much easier breeding a dog like that to a male who is kind of with the similar traits, because they both correlate better, than having a really high drive female breeding with a very low drive male. And I would have to say vice versa, depending on the circumstances.
Right. So, I mean, if you're only breeding for conformation, right, how they look, you are not going to take into consideration temperament. Or if you do, it's going to be much lower on your priority list, right? You see an absolutely drop dead, too standard Australian Shepherd stud, and you're going to breed him to your most too standard female. Now, maybe your female has weak ears, right? They want the ear set to be different. And that male has beautiful ears. So you're going to combine those two to make a prettier dog, right? In the meantime, are you taking into consideration temperament? Because although the dogs they're going to produce will likely be gorgeous and very much to standard, are they going to be dogs who do well in the home? This is my problem with people who breed livestock guardian dogs. It's like a working livestock guardian dog that you're breeding, you can only sell them to other ranchers, right? So do you know enough ranchers to fit the bill, right? That are interested in buying a dog? Because you can't sell that dog successfully to a pet home. So when you're breeding dogs, you better make sure that you are creating dogs who will fit well in the pet home. Otherwise, you're going to see those dogs back again. They're going to be returned to you with bites on their record, or just not well cared for and returned, or dumped in a shelter because they haven't been able to be, compatible in a pet home. I mean, you would see that with Kita, for instance.
Yeah.
Kita is a husky. Cane Corso. I mean, to me, she looks like a Malinois. She acts like a Malinois. She's crazy that way.
But she doesn't have
no aggression.
No, it's like she's smart, but she's not driven. Like with Twiggy, she's driven and she has certain tasks that she can do and blah, blah, blah. But Kita has all this energy, but it's not like you can't hone it in to put it towards something.
So you're talking about differences there is focus. So Twiggy can focus that drive, which is truly what drive is, right? Where you can take it and focus that extreme willingness to do a behavior, and you can focus it and do that behavior to incredibly well. Whereas someone like Kita has very husky-ish sort of ADD. Mm-hmm. She's sort of all over the place. So although she has all this energy, you're right. I'm not sure I would really describe it as drive. It's just in the air.
It's like you can't really...
She has no ability to focus.
No, it's really hard to get her to focus. And I mean, even if I took her and I trained her for many years, I would have to teach her how to focus. It's not a natural... Twiggy, I could teach her a trick in 2 seconds because I can hone that energy in, because she naturally hones that energy in and put it towards a task. With Kita, it's just all this kind of energy all over the place, and it's so hard to pinpoint it. You have to really train her brain to pinpoint it to a specific behavior, which is why she's so difficult.
Yeah, she is. She's a challenging dog, for sure. Sweet.
Super sweet.
But a challenging dog to work with, and I imagine to live with. Yeah. God bless her owners, because she's a lot.
She's a lot.
Fortunately, she's sweet. Mm-hmm. So, whatever you're breeding, or even people who are breeding agility champion dogs to other agility champion dogs, I gotta hope that you are only selling to people who are going to be competing obsessively with those puppies. Because what one of those puppies is going to do well in the average home? I just don't see it.
You know how we were talking about, I think you were telling me how they've been breeding certain breeds together to be able to work specifically in the...
Don't even get me started. The sporting, what do they call it? I think it's a sport mix or something like that. There's a term for it. Not sporting dog, because that's a group in the AKC. Yeah. Retrievers and whatnot. It's not the sporting group. It's like a sport mix.
Yeah, and
it's crazy.
Yeah, they're so intense. That is a dog that will never be able to fit into a household.
So what the sporting mixes are?
Well,
go ahead.
Okay,
tell me.
So it's a whippet, a pit bull, and what was the other one? A border collie. They mix these, and they take each of the groups. They take the highest drive of each of these groups. So to create speed, to create drive, and then to create intelligence. And so they mix these...
And intensity.
So they're really good with doing agility, and they can do it super fast and super quick. And when we went to the AKC, we saw one of those dogs there, and he pretty much took the cake home because he was so driven. But I look at that dog and I was like, how is he in a household? He must have to be kenneled.
I know how he's in a household because he's with somebody who works him. What about the rest of the puppies in that litter? Where are they?
And I think a great example is Emma. I think has one of those dogs. Yes, because she is such a good trainer. I've
This is your friend, Emma.
Yeah, this is my friend Emma, and I've taught her a lot of things. She's willing to listen. She's
a natural dog trainer.
Very natural, and she's worked so hard on this dog, and this dog still cannot turn off.
So basically, these dogs look like pity mixes.
Yeah.
Because that's usually what they are.
Yeah.
So they're taking the intensity. They like the intensity of a pity, their ability to turn on instantly and be extremely driven, right, for a flash. And then they can turn off again, we hope, right? This is why you see pits attack someone and then 5 seconds later they're licking your face. And you're like, wait a minute, you just were acting like a crazed lunatic and now you're like totally chill. That's what pits have been bred for, right? The Mastiffs have been bred to turn on quickly and turn off quickly.
Yep.
So they get the intensity from the pity, the intelligence from the Border Collie, and the speed from the Whippet, right? Sometimes it's just a pity and a Border Collie mix, which I just want to shoot myself in the head when I hear that. These dogs they're like mixed breed Malinois. I mean, they're crazy, and they're not going to fit into 9.9 out of 10 homes.
Nope.
I mean, they're just not.
No.
I mean, Emma's unusual in that, well, first of all, she's single. She doesn't have kids. She's not married. She's young, and, she
dedicates her entire life to Sapphire. Entire life to Sapphire. And if she didn't, Sapphire would really struggle
end up
in
back
the
in the
household.
shelter. Right.
Yep. So it's such a fine line of, look what we can do. We can create this super high drive dog.
Super being.
Yeah. But in the end, is it benefiting them? Like, is it benefiting the litter mates? Like, who is it benefiting? Them to just do in the show ring for 2 seconds? Like, I don't know. Like, I think what we're trying to achieve is creating a breed that properly represents what Australian Shepherds are, but also trying to fit them genetically to be able to naturally be able to go in a household with people who have somewhat dog experience. They don't have to have the crazy knowledge that we have to be able to get them nice, comfortable in a house.
Right. And there's still a challenge because Aussies are high intelligence dogs.
With any purebred breed, they're going to have certain characteristics that aren't going to fit your lifestyle. That's just part of it.
I just want to correct you. We're not trying to create a breed. We're trying to have a breeding program that creates puppies that are well suited to the average home, right? And they're still challenging, and I still lecture all of my potential buyers who've never had an Aussie before. I love when they call me and they already have an Aussie in the home or they've had one in the past, because I don't have to lecture them about what they're like. The ones that don't, I have to spend my 10 minutes lecturing them on what they can expect to get. Not a golden retriever. It's not just about, socializing them and loving them. They are still going to be reserved with people they don't know.
Yep. I think also a big thing is I hear a lot, not just like from our training program, but like from the outside world of when I talk to just average people about dogs. They're like, oh, I really want an intelligent dog. I want to be able to do this, and that. Realistically, you just want a nice companion. You intelligence, you don't want intelligence. You want a mildly decent, intelligent dog that can do sits and downs and hang out with you. True intelligence is, nobody wants true intelligence because then they become wary of new people. Then they start showing characteristics that don't fit with your lifestyle. Like with Twiggy, I mean, we were having a hard time rehoming her because she's so wary of new people. And when she finds a little glimmer of weakness, she abuses that little glimmer of weakness. And then all of a sudden she makes an enemy out of somebody, So it's intelligence is not your friend. People who say, I want an intelligent dog, you do not. You just want a nice companion. Go get a retriever, go get a doodle, go get a poodle. These are very intelligent dogs that will do what you need to do in your household, but won't drive you crazy insane,
Right. So a dumb dog, that you and I would consider not all that swift, is intelligent enough for the average person. Like, I don't think Poppy's dog, Maisie, she's a pug. I don't think she's particularly smart. Pugs are not known for their intelligence, but she's plenty smart enough.
Perfect.
She's plenty smart enough to learn the basic rules of the house and what he expects. And she learns them quickly because even a dumb dog is really pretty smart. So I agree. We do not breed dogs here for intelligence.
No, we do not.
We don't want particularly smart Aussies. The average Aussie is plenty smart. We don't want to breed for intelligence. So that's definitely not something that I put in the mix. I don't go, oh, she's so smart. That's something I want to carry along in my bloodlines. Because again, the dumbest Aussie we have is really smart.
Yep.
So I don't even consider intelligence when we're talking about retaining a dog for breeding or using a stud dog or anything like that.
You know, not to throw shade, but I mean, I think probably the dog in our pack that's not like the highest intelligence is Ty, and we have bred him the most because he is the best characteristics to fit into a household. He has how many puppies on his chart at this point?
He's been bred a lot.
He's been bred a lot, and he creates lovely, lovable, amazing Aussies.
Yep.
And I would not characterize him as very intelligent. I would say he's just perfect the way he is. But, you know, he'll do sits and downs and whatever, but he doesn't really want to do much than that. Right. He's very happy and content and to lay in his corner and be pretty, which is what you really want.
Yeah, and he's actually very low drive.
Very low drive.
And when we say low drive Aussie, you can turn them on and get them to be driven, particularly if you're playing a game, playing ball or whatever, or swimming or whatever, they turn on really well. So it's not that we're breeding them for no drive. It's just that their default is very low drive. Yep. So he's a really chill guy. He's always been a chill guy, and he's produced amazing puppies. He's also very handsome.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah.
And he's so loving, and he's so mellow and sweet. So we've used him a lot to sort of tone down our girls who tend to be really smart and a little bit bitchy. In fact, Evie is one of his puppies. So she's his dad.
And we
that
bred
was his
him
last litter.
with Journey, and Journey is wary of people. And so we've realized with that litter, and we've been really close with that litter, just out of coincidence, that because of that, it's kind of shaved off that kind of wariness of people from Journey.
Yeah, and that's
really
something
nice
that you
dog.
learn, right? You learn that, we learned that Journey's reserved nature with people, extreme reserved nature with new people, is not particularly inheritable. So you got to wonder how she was raised in those first 8 weeks, whether she was handled and given the kind of stimulation that we give our puppies, and maybe it's more environmental, more nurture with her. Certainly when she came with us, we did plenty of socializing with other dogs and people.
But she was like that
from
from
the
day
moment we
one.
got her home. She was, as an 8-week-old puppy, very reserved.
Yep, she
sort of never came out of that.
It was you she was really close with, and then she started to come close with me, and it was Jacob and Dad. She was like, for like a
initially,
while.
remember, she loved Jacob.
Yeah.
When she was a tiny puppy.
Was it me and Dad? I don't know, but she was like not whoever. It was two of us. She was not cool with for a while, and then she realized that we weren't going anywhere, and then she was just like, I guess I have to like you.
Yeah, but you know that's so it's not anything that we could have really. In fact, I think about what she would be like if she wasn't with us, like how she would have turned out, because I've done so much work with her, with people.
I'm kind of worried.
I know.
I don't like to think about it because I always think like she's the one that would be in the shelter, like with bites on her record or something like that.
Well, she was a farm dog.
Yeah.
So she came from a farm. So she came from a different sort of bloodlines, for sure.
Working lines for sure. Oh, we could talk about that because I was talking about that with Maya, and I was like, yeah, Journey looks so different than everyone else because she comes from working lines, and working lines, they don't really have to fit into a household because they're working all day. So Journey is so fast, which is one of the characteristics for working lines. Short coat, so not really based off of aesthetics or having that really nice broad chest and this long coat, because they're working. You don't have time. You hose them off and you call it a day. Her intelligence, so she really is an ideal characteristics of like a working line Australian Shepherd compared to like.
Yeah, for sure. That short coat, they don't care what they look like. So if you talk about true border collies, so not show line border collies, but working line border collies, the border collies come in so many different sizes and shapes and colors, and the ear set can be anywhere from prick ears to drop ears to rose to button, because that didn't matter. That didn't matter. They can have longer coats or shorter coats. It did all of that sort of aesthetics, like you say. If it didn't affect their work, it was not considered a reason to breed or to not breed. So they were just breeding them based on their performance ability. Now, that being said, being really good at their job requires a certain structure in body, right? They have to, be very athletic. They have to be sort of easy to get low to the ground, and they have to have the eye, all of those things. And when you breed specifically for that, you're going to end up with a dog who is to standard, because the things you need for work will create a certain speed and ability and size and conformation. I mean, that's how all dogs were created, unless they're toys.
Yep.
Toys were only created to be companions.
Which is partly why we always preach for like pugs and stuff, because they were never bred for anything else besides to just chill.
Pugs are underrated, man.
They really
underrated.
Are. They're so good. I always recommend, if you want a little dog and you just want a companion, get a pug.
If you want a Frenchie,
easy.
Get a pug.
Yep.
Do yourself a favor.
Yep.
It'll save you about $8,000 just in the purchase price, and probably save you $40,000 in vet bills over the course of that puppy's life.
Yep.
And they're just fantastic. Pugs are great dogs. And of course, they're, the small dogs are easier to breed, so you'll see them more often in pet stores. So, like the unethical sort of puppy mills have an easier time with smaller dogs. So they've been, overbred, and you see a lot of really ugly pugs. But when you can find a nicely bred pug, they are just the best.
They're gems. I've never really met like a nasty pug, unless it was just like terribly bred, and I was like, oh, I see where your bloodlines come from.
You got bitten by a pug, remember? That pug at work?
That's what I'm saying, is that's the only...
I was like, there's no way a pug bit you. I've never met an aggressive pug.
And then you came to the back, and I was trying to put that harness on, and he tried to bite me again. His name was...
Olga. It was a girl.
Oh, Olga. Yeah, I was thinking a Ringo.
No,
black one.
Olga. Ringo was grumpy with other dogs, but not with people.
Yeah, not with people. And then there was that
Have you ever
Gizmo
met
one.
Do you have any nasty pugs that come into the vet?
I remember the names, but I've been bitten by a couple bugs.
Really?
I know, it's crazy.
Black pugs too.
Yeah, it's the black ones, man.
That's interesting. Interesting. I prefer the fawns anyway.
Yeah, I do too. Though I do love the black ones when they start to get their gray on their face. I just think they're so cute.
I don't like that. I don't like a gray face.
Oh, I love it.
That's part of the reason why
Journey's gonna have a gray face, just so you know.
No, she's going to look perfect.
Right? She's
all
gonna
the way to
she's
the
gonna
end.
have a gray face.
No.
Yeah, she is.
That's part of the reason
I'm
why I
excited
think
about it.
Remy is aging so well, because just her eyebrows, her brown eyebrows turn white, and that's basically it, because she has so much white on her face that you can't even tell that she's old, and she's just so cute.
No, she is super cute right now. Well, you can tell. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons you can tell that she's old, but her belly's not the same. Her belly used to be like velvet. Now she has like old lady belly.
She's such a good girl.
Anyways, but like, I mean, part of the reason I think we try to push pugs instead of Frenchies is Frenchies tend to have like this big dog mentality in this little tiny body, and that causes a lot of problems. It's not very compatible in most households, in my opinion.
You know what I found interesting? This is a little bit off topic, but I'm obsessed with Denise Fenzi.
Yes.
Right? So Denise Fenzi is a very well-known dog trainer. She's on Instagram and TikTok. She's great. I love her. She's like my idol. She's done Malinois for her whole life. Well, not her whole life, but certainly her whole adult life. She's my age. She just got her first border collie. He's 7 months old. You saw him. His name is Ice. I think she has come over to the dark side. I think she's going to go for border collies. I mean, I think she's really blown away in how intelligent he is. And she's used to really smart dogs. Mm-hmm. You listen to her talk about him, and she's like, where was this dog my whole life? I'm like, oh.
I love when we saw a beautiful Malinois the other day, and they're so cool. But it's very different personality than a border collie or a cattle dog in general. Like, you don't really...
I don't think Malinois are good-looking dogs. They're just not my thing.
That one we saw the other day, I was like, oh, I could get me one of these.
Okay, well, she was a very pretty Malinois, but she was still
pretty.
just a Malinois.
I don't know. I thought she was beautiful.
Not my thing.
Oh,
I don't
man.
think they're good-looking dogs. But again, because they're bred for work,
they're
not bred for
aesthetically
how they look, right?
Yeah.
They're not bred for beauty. They're bred for work. Just again, we're going off topic a little bit here, but in the United States, you have the Belgian Tervuren, which is a long-haired Malinois. You have the Malinois, which is a short-haired Malinois. And then you have the Belgian Shepherd, which is a long-haired black Malinois. They're actually all Malinois. So if you go to Europe, they're all Malinois, just different varieties. So long hair, short hair, dark hair kind of thing. But in the United States, we split them all up. So Belgian Tervurens, so the long-haired Malinois are generally prettier. Denise Fency's dog is named Zen. He's a long-haired Malinois. He's very handsome.
He's very handsome.
Yes, he has that beautiful Roman nose. He's a pretty dog. But that short-haired Malinois, she was pretty for a short-haired Malinois, but she's still not my thing.
I don't know. She was gorgeous, and she was a nice size. I don't know. I also think size is a big part too. I like smaller dogs. I don't know. This has nothing to do with the conversation.
I know we're kind of going off topic, but whatever.
But
yeah, so I mean, I guess my point is that I have come around after all these years to understand that dog breeders who prioritize, of course, it's always prioritizing health, always, right? We're really lucky as Aussie breeders that we have so many genetic tests that we can screen for, right? Genetic diseases that we can screen for. Not most breeds do not have that many, which is fantastic for us. Health is always first, but really for us, a very close second is temperament, right? So if you don't have health, you have nothing. If you don't have good temperament, you almost have nothing. And beyond that, I'm not terribly concerned about looks. I always like to have a litter that has all four colors, right? Just for variety, because people like that, and it's just interesting. We don't always get that. We have red puppies for the first time in like 4 years. First time in a long time. Well, if you don't include Clyde from last litter.
yeah, true.
First red tries, I guess, in 4 years is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the variety. You always try to shoot for a wide variety of colors in an Aussie litter just because they sell better, right? Because people are looking for different things.
And not like the Journey's last litter, they were all black and female. I was like,
No, we had two blue merles. Two blue merles.
we did.
And then 5 black tries.
every time they kept coming out black, I was like, what the heck, man? I don't have the same.
But they were gorgeous.
They
black
were
tries.
gorgeous, but
She does produce really pretty puppies.
And
Considering she is not the most good-looking dog ever, she really does produce gorgeous puppies.
yeah, and we've seen most of them all grown, and they're all beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and they all have much longer coats than their mother does. There's only one that had like a little bit of a shorter coat, but she was super cute.
To be fair, the reason they have longer coats than their mom is because they're all spayed.
That's true.
Their mom isn't spayed.
And Ty has a beautiful big coat.
Well, that's true. So Evie has more of a tie coat. But once Evie gets spayed, she'll get that really big, thick coat.
I know. Gianna's not looking forward for that. She's like, oh, she's going to be bald. And I was like, yeah, but you'll be able to see all that muscle the vet was telling you that she had. You'll be fine. Like Twiggy has like no coat right now, but you can see all of her muscle. She's just pure muscle.
No, Twiggy is pure muscle for sure.
She's just all muscular.
So yeah, I guess we could sort of wind it up. Do you have anything else to say on this topic?
No, I don't think so. We kind of just ranted about random stuff.
So I mean, I think sometimes when they, meaning the world, sort of talks about pet dog breeders, a lot of times we get a bad name, like, oh, she's just a backyard breeder because she doesn't show her dogs. Okay, well, no. Okay, that's not what a backyard breeder is. I think actually the opposite, that pet dog breeders are really the backbone of breed fancy, right? Because if you're picking a breed and breeding them only for specific physical traits, right? Or breeding them and they have really pronounced breed traits, not the toys, of course, because their only breed trait would be to sit on your lap. You are producing dogs who don't do well in homes and by and large get a bad reputation, right? Because people see that and they're like, oh, I've seen every Wheaton I've ever met is a horrible dog, that kind of thing. Which I'm not a big fan of Wheatons, which is why I picked that one out. So how is that promoting your breed? I think as a good pet dog breeder, my goal is to make really nice dogs. So one, they're well cared for and loved. It's easier to love and care for a dog who is compatible, right? I mean, just human nature. So that for me helps me sleep at night. If I'm producing dogs that are lovely, I know it's easier for them to be cared for and loved, and therefore better chance that they have wonderful homes where they're loved for their entire lives, right? I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was saying.
I'm talking about why we do this and how we get bad names.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's my point.
And like also through experience, you know, we've seen a lot of purebred dogs that are just not compatible, and you can tell they're from specific bloodlines, and I always just wonder, like, I don't know.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, like GSPs, I always think of. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is like a lot of dog, and it's so hard to breed away from that very natural hunting instinct.
Right. So if you're breeding field, working line GSPs, do you have enough hunters that you're selling to? Because you need to sell those puppies to all hunters.
Yeah, you can't sell them anywhere else.
We've seen the results of selling working line GSP to a suburban home. And that dog was hell for 15 years. Sweet, loving. They loved him, but he was 10 times the work
of any dog. They could have had like 5 dogs and it would have been less work than him.
Yeah, he was a lot.
I loved him, but he was a lot, man.
No, well, and if you're talking about that particular family, and then they had a dachshund who was really not very dachshund-like.
Not
so
at all.
Sweet, so loving, where dachshunds tend to be really tough. He was not at all, unless there was a small animal, and then he turned into a dachshund and turned into a killer.
Yeah. I mean, you can even compare like Gertie to Finn, which was our 2 dachshunds that we had when we grew up. Finn was definitely working lines and Gertie was show lines.
I don't think Gertie was show lines. No.
She was beautiful though.
No, she wasn't. She was not.
Yes, she was.
She's not a well-bred dog at all.
I thought she was beautiful.
I thought she was beautiful for Gertie, just like I think Patty is beautiful for Patty.
Yeah.
But they were not, neither of them are. I mean, if you look at show line dachshunds, they look almost like a different breed.
But she's so cute. Okay, anyways, but yeah, Finn was
like
Deacon.
Like Winston, he is more typical of a show line dog.
I love Winston too.
He's a beautiful dog.
I love dachshunds. I just wish they didn't,
Bark
not
and pee in the house.
Yeah.
Bark and pee in the house. Yeah. I would have dachshunds all day long if they didn't have those 2 traits.
Yeah. Yeah, they're intense. I think that is another breed that people get a lot of, and they realize, oh shit, this is a hunting dog, and you're like, yeah, like,
yeah, he's the killer.
Yeah, they will easily kill some. I mean, even Gertie, she was just a lover. But
and for dachshunds, their bark per pound is intense.
Oh man,
because
they're so small.
In theory, they're underground, so their bark has to be super loud, so you know where they are underground. Mm-hmm. So for a dog of their size, they're supposed to be super loud.
Oh, beagles too.
Oh, beagles!
Yeah,
don't get me started on beagles.
I love a good beagle, but they're too loud. I'm gonna shoot myself.
They also don't housebreak.
No, they don't housebreak either. But there's like we've seen like a really nice bred beagle. Oh my gosh. I could get why people get them.
For sure, but I would never want one.
I wouldn't. No. I'm not into the... there's a reason we like herding breeds. I don't think I could ever really go out of the herding breed category.
Unless you're talking about a borzoi.
Yeah. No, not for me. I always go on the AKC looking for different breeds that maybe I would want to try, and like it's really hard to move away from the herding breed.
And the people who have sporting dogs should stick with sporting dogs. I mean, there's a reason that they're grouped.
Well, I think that's the amazing thing about having so many variety of dogs is like get a dog that fits your personality. That's what I always recommend.
I know
but people can't do it.
That makes sense, but people they get dogs out of emotion, not out of even the ones that call me up and tell me they researched it. I'm like, have you really though?
Yeah.
Like you may know about it, but does that fit your lifestyle? You may have researched it, but have you decided that fits your lifestyle?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
Oh well.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have jobs.
It's true. It's true. It's true. All right. I'm not sure we made our point in this episode, but my point is, I guess, that pet dog breeders are really the backbone of breed fancy, and I think we've gotten a bad reputation. I don't think we've gotten our just
desserts?
No, just desserts is a bad thing.
Oh.
I don't think we've gotten enough accolades for the kind of work that we do. And the kind of work that other really good pet dog breeders do.
Do Karen and Melissa show?
No.
No? Okay. I didn't know if they did.
They love their Aussies, though.
They do. And they're beautiful. Gotten a lot of Aussies from them. So.
All right, we should wind it up. It's not. It's hardly an hour.
Yep.
It's barely an hour. All right, so stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on the puppies every week. Please tune in to our YouTube channel. If you're not already watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. That really does help us out. Yeah, so we got another 7.5 weeks with these. No, 6.5 weeks with these puppies.
Yep.
And they're going to turn out really cute in another week. They'll start to look really cute.
Their eyes need to open already.
Soon.
Yep. They're almost guinea pig stage. It's my
How do they
favorite.
bite? Oh, that's true. All right, guys. We'll see you next time on Dog for Thought. Bye. Dog for Thought is written and hosted by me, Sarah Brown, co-hosted by Sophie Brown, produced, edited, and original music by Jacob Brown. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.